right, so you're doing that. Okay, hey guys, here I am, Kortanaski, Yankee T News with Jason once again on this lovely Saturday night, April 11th, and with Connecticut Common Sense News and Entertainment, soon to be global Common Sense News and Entertainment.
And right here, good evening to live on Facebook on Saturday night, April 11th. Here with Kortanaski and Yankee T News. Podcasting here on a beautiful April 11th. I'm about 2 pounds lighter, a lot less hair going on tonight.
Oh, I thought I saw something there.
Yeah, we got cut up and cleaned up, and so we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to do an abbreviated version of the show tonight because it is late and we're both running on fumes. So here we go with Kortanaski and myself.
That's a fair statement. So I came from this party where, for my older son who is special needs, there's this organization called Vista. And we had a fundraiser tonight called the Starlight event. Yeah, and it ran on a little bit longer than it should have. So
that's not always the case.
That's for sure. But that's okay. I mean, every good time was had by all.
Good.
So yes. So here we are, looking at the world once again, and trying to puzzle out all this amazing nonsense. We do have, by the way, an official troll now. At least I do.
Really?
Yes, I'm trying to find his handle again here. Let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, we talked to last night, the one that was
Nope.
The restaurant guy.
I kind of checked in later. Darn, I wish I could find his. Maybe I could find it. Anyway. Yeah, so I mean, he's the kind of person who just thinks Air America is evil,
one of those,
and crap, and blah blah blah, and he just doesn't want to look at the good parts, and that's about as simple a way as I can portray it.
Well, listen, whenever you're dealing with any large organization of human beings, whether it's the United States government or IBM or you're going to have elements that don't go the way they should go. Not everything is going to, because we're flawed creatures. And we also have among us, like we discussed a few weeks back, only about 5 to 10% of us that are really competent to do whatever is needed to be done. And the rest of it is there's a lot of issues one way or the other. So
I'm not sure if the number is that low.
Well, even if the number's higher than that, the point is anytime you have a large organization, there's going to be flaws because we're flawed people.
Let's go with the Pareto principle. Remember the Pareto principle?
Tell me about it.
That's where, how should I say it? 80% of the work gets done by 20% of the people. So Salesforce, you're going to find that 80% of the sales comes from 20% of the salesmen.
I know that for a fact because myself and a guy named Mike, the two of us at Sears Carpet Cleaning Service back in the late 80s, accounted for 80% of the sales of the carpet cleaning garage.
Right. So there you go. And this principle shows up in an astonishing number of places. So the problem for large organizations then is that you have, as the organization grows, you have a disproportionate number of mediocre performers that make up your total headcount, and that bears a cost. So, and it shouldn't be surprising that periodically there's going to be a trimming and cutting back. As another example, in Google's early days, right? They had this very this program where they encouraged their engineers to take off 1 day a week for the sole purpose of inventing, exploring, testing, innovating, rather than worrying about what the company needed to have done.
So it's basically a research versus product. Not worry about production 1 day a week and worry about moving forward and research and how to improve.
Yeah, no, it was a case of work on things that have nothing to do with the bottom line, nothing to do with profitability, just invent. Okay. And that's great, but I'm sorry, with 100 engineers, it's going to be the same problem. 20% of them are going to come up with great stuff, and the other 80%, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you wasted a day a week for 80 engineers who would have been better put to, helping with the bottom line because they really didn't produce anything as far as research is concerned.
That's why you're better off developing a task force within your company of who you know are your best engineers, and they can sit down once a week and talk about how to improve things.
Yeah, well, I will argue that even then,
like your all-star team.
Yeah, even within your all-star team, you're going to have guys who emerge as the top, and the others on the all-stars team are not performing all that well. It's a very strange dynamic, but it exists, and it's so common you just can't understand why it is. But there it is.
Mm-hmm. So, well, that's why if you like in baseball, right? If you pick an all-star team, the best players in the American League to play in the all-star game, they're not all going to go 4 for 4 because they're the best players. Some are going to strike out still, and that's kind of how it is.
Right. Yeah. So there you go. So I don't know what you do with that. So
you got to work within it, really.
Yeah, and I think companies do, and so as I was suggesting, they go through these periodic phases of trimming back when they realize that these people, the bottom performers, are not really helping with the company. Another example is
suggesting if you have 100 employees and say there's 20-30% of them, only 20% of them are performing at the level you would expect. Another 30% are performing way below expectations. So suggesting if you cut out that 30%, the 70 you have left, over time, 30% of them are going to be at the bottom of the totem pole. You're going to have the same problem just with fewer people.
Well, what you find is that I think this is real. Is what happens is your workload stays the same. In this case, the formula is 10%. You get rid of the bottom 10% each year. Okay. So the thing is, the top 10% know how to be productive, so they can absorb the time demands of the jobs that were handled by the bottom 10%. Now, of course, it puts the top 10 or 20% under more pressure, but they know how to handle pressure. From the upper perspective of management, they say, great, next year we're going to lop off the next 10%. And now, the top 10%, there's even more pressure to perform. Okay. So there is a point where the system does kind of begin to break because there is only so much that your top performers can handle. Then after that, mistakes are going to be made. Performance will go down. Okay. Bottom line results aren't going to be achieved. But you find what?
There's a larger group of people that are maybe not be at the top of the line, but are at least competent to be, you can delegate to. That's probably the key to making it work, I think.
It's what each company is willing to tolerate in terms of their internal performance. It comes down to. So what was the other example I was going to throw out here?
I read something once about, well, I'll give you an example. If you have an office, if you're in a management position, and generally people tend to, when they're trying to multitask, and they tend to go account to account. So let's say you're an account manager and you have 9 accounts. You get up and they tend to go in and do account by account, and that's counterproductive. You're supposed to break your day down into tasks, the types of tasks, not the accounts. So in other words, you look at what you do. So as an office manager, what do? You answer emails, you answer phone calls, you have meetings, you do your budgeting, whatnot. So you break your day down on that. So you come and you do all your phone calls, all your emails, you break it down by task. And that way if you do it that way, you can do things literally two times faster and handle twice as much work with actually an easier workload on your brain too, the way your brain handles things.
Actually,
it's like Henry Ford's assembly line, only you can apply Henry Ford's assembly line to white collar work and management work as well.
The other research shows those who get up earlier are more productive than those who get up later.
That's true. That's why I get up at 4 or 5 o'clock every morning.
There you go.
If I wake up at 6:15 in the morning, man, did I crash in? Boy, did I ruin this day. I am a lazy bum.
Well, you should.
So once in a while when I'm tired and I work at night sometimes, so I'm human. So I wake up at 6:15 in the morning. I feel like I overslept.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then
And that's why this time of night I start to go.
yeah, well, so did you do a lot of serving today?
This morning I went and did 6 of them.
Wow. Okay.
6. I started off 1 for 3, then I got the last 3 in a row for a 4 for 6. And I have this extreme where last week I think I might have said this already. A woman came to the door. She had to be 90 years old or more. Had to be. And her son wasn't home. Whose son I was trying to serve. And I got her the door, and she says, "Oh, I don't know if I can take this." I said, "Oh yeah, you can. Anybody over 18 can take it, and you think you qualify? Pretty sure you qualify." And she says, "Well, I don't know if he wants me to take it." I said, "Oh no, I think he's going to want to see this." She said, "Oh, okay then." So I got it done that way. And then that was last week. Today, I go to a door this morning. It's the exact opposite situation. It's early in the morning. It's 8:05 Saturday morning this morning. This time, instead of a 90-something-year-old woman, it's a 7-year-old boy.
Okay.
The other end of the spectrum, right? And what's the first thing you should do if you come to someone's house and a young child answers the door? There's only one sentence you should ever say. What is that sentence?
That you should never say?
There's only one sentence that you should say. There's no other thing you should ever say.
I need to see your parents.
Is your mom or dad home?
Right.
Can I speak with your mom and dad? Yeah, it's the only thing you should ever say. If you ever go to somebody's door and a little boy or a little girl answers the door, that's the only sentence you should ever say. Nothing else. And that's what I said. And I waited. He said, "Oh, hold on a minute." And he closed the door wisely. And about 2 minutes later, a very big, 6-foot-tall, late 30-something-year-old, scary-looking Hulk Hogan guy came to the.
Okay, right.
And he said, "It's 8 o'clock in the morning. What the f you doing at my house?" And I was like, "I have something for your wife." It was his mom. I asked for the kid for her. Well, I think I said mom or dad, and he said, "I said it's for your mom." I said, and the dad came to the door, and he wasn't too happy. "What are you doing at my house at 8 o'clock in the morning?" And I said to him, I said, "This is when my day starts. I wouldn't come before 8." 8:04. The guy's like, "You can put it right there." Wasn't too happy. Once in a while, I get that. I get it. The guy probably works and doesn't want to get woken up at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning, but I got a job to do. I can't show up at houses at 10, 11, wait till 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, show at houses on weekends. No one's going to be home.
Right.
So
you have to surprise them. Yeah, I get it.
Get them in the morning. I won't. I do start my day at 7, so I kind of lied to him. He's lucky. He was my. He should be. If he only knew, he was my 4th stop of the day.
Please.
So yeah, I don't fool around. I start at 7 o'clock on Saturday and weekdays. 7 o'clock. In the summer I'll do 6:30 because it's light out. And if I see generally, even if it's not
you'll knock on somebody's door at 6:30 in the morning.
I've done it before, yeah. That's the earliest I've done. I've done 5:30 once, but that was prearranged, so that was okay. 6:30 is the only surprise one done. What I'll do is, if I'm driving to an area, especially down the other end of the state, I'll go early, and I'll try my luck. Like if I show them there's lights on in the house, then I can, people get up early. They go to work during the week, especially. And now I won't show up at your house at 6:30 on a Saturday. I will not do that. I make sure it's at least after 7:15 or later.
Oh, geez.
Real helpful, huh?
Yeah,
thanks a lot. Hey, too bad. I got a job to do. I got to get it done. Now at night it's different. At night, 8:30 at night is the latest that I want to show up at your house. But I won't show up at your house after 8:30 if I can help it. But let me tell you right now, if I drive out to New Milford and New Fairfield and Danbury, and I'm all the way out there, and the time gets away from me, and it's 8:45, and I got just the Danbury left, I'm not driving all the way back to Hartford to come back the next day. No way. You're gonna get the knock at 9 o'clock because that's the way it is. I try to avoid that.
So this raises another question in my mind. This kind of work, it's process serving. You can't plan anything.
Well, I would say about 1 out of 20 of them are actually, once in a while I'll get a job and they'll say, well, you can call this number and they'll meet you, and I'll call the number and they'll meet me, and that happens. Those
Okay.
are great. Those are easy peasy. But
Okay.
those are like 1 out of 30 maybe.
You can't look and say, all right, I can expect to be at such and such place and time to meet somebody, because you could be expected to deliver a process serve at that time.
I don't have that ability to. I mean, I have the ability to research. Here's the thing: when they pay me for this, they pay me a flat fee, a relatively affordable one,
Yeah.
for 3 attempts. So I'm in the role of a mail. As a process server, I'm not really an investigator. I'm a mailman. So I'm just there to deliver it. That's it. And I do my due diligence to see if, I do more than the mailman does, because I look to see if there's what vehicles they have there, if there's a dog there, lights on or off, what's the story? Is there somebody living here or not? Is it the right person? I do my due diligence on the house site, but they don't pay me to be an investigator, really. Like, I'm not there to do research and try to figure out where they live. And see, they do that. They provide an address. Here's where we think just like a mail service. Here's where we think they live. Here, go get them. Or here's where they think they work or whatever. And then I generally do nothing other than just go there beforehand. First trip. Now, after the first trip, if I realize that I'm not sure, there's something funky, so to help myself, I'll check the assessor's office, maybe see if I can see if they own the place or not. Or if it's a business, businesses are almost always successful in the first attempt. But every now and then you get there and the place doesn't seem like the right place, or you're not sure, or sometimes big corporations, they don't man their offices anymore and you can't get anybody at the door. So then I might do a little cursory research and get a phone number, see if I can figure something out, who's going to be in the office, whatever. So I'm not barking up a tree, running around the state for nothing,
Right.
So I do my research for me. They're not paying me to be an investigator. They're paying me just that they provide all that. And I'll help them along while I'm there, but that's how it goes. So as far as I could research and try to call people, figure out where they are, meet them, and arrange everything. But first of all, we don't know who's going to want this paperwork and who's not. So I could be overplaying a hand on somebody that wouldn't. In other words, somebody who will try to dodge me. But if they don't know what's coming and they're not going to do anything, they open the door, I can get them. But if I call them, then I've just played my hand, and they're not going to. Oh, there's a processor after me. Time to batten down the hatches.
Right.
I had a woman in Windsor recently. I went there last week. I walked up to her. She had Venetian blinds on her door, and I walked up to the door. She was standing right there behind Venetian blinds. I said, "Hello," and she went. And I just saw her finger go like this. The Venetian blinds went, and she was gone. I'm like, "Oh, so we're avoiding her, are we?" I knocked a couple times. I tried to talk to her through the door. I actually pretty good gift of gab. 2 times in the last year, I've talked a dodger into opening the door, or a reluctant, not really a dodger, but a reluctant recipient, to opening the door and taking it through a closed door. Pretty cool. It's hard to do that. But I didn't get this woman. I went back there the other day.
Yep.
Friday, I think it was, and walked up to the house. This time, the entire interior door was open. So you could, the screen, you could literally talk right near the house. And I'm like, and I heard a vacuum cleaner running or something. And I heard the vacuum cleaner. I'm like, hello, hello. And she's not coming to the door. I turn my back. I walk about 8 feet away. I look to the front door. I turn back over. Boom. She shuts the interior door.
Oh, how nice.
Now that's now I have all the faith that she's dodging. So whatever. They may or may not hire me to sit on her house, stake her out. They want to spend that. It's a lot more expensive to do that, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, so here's some news.
Let's hear it.
J.D. Vance issues new statement after 21 hours of talks. We do not have an agreement. We are headed home.
Time for war. Continue the war.
Sure seems like it.
Just wipe them out, man. Get it over with. This thing is ridiculous. You can't let this mullah exist after this, and you got to do whatever it takes. I like what you said earlier off air about the comparison between this and Japan. I did read about what you said, how there's an interesting comparison.
That's right.
Yep. How essentially Japan, before the massive attacks on the mainland of Japan, we know what those are, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan was fairly united, their warriors and their leadership, their emperor, that we were never going to surrender to the United States. Hiroshima changed all that, right? You tell it better than me.
Yeah, well, basically there was the time between dropping of the bomb on Hiroshima and the dropping of the bomb on Nagasaki. The
It was
Japanese
like 6 days or something, right? It wasn't very long.
well, yeah, no, it wasn't long, but
No, it was like a week or two. I don't know. It wasn't
in
long.
that time, there was a hot debate: should we surrender or not? So, guess what? You had some people who said we need to cut a deal, and others who said we're going to fight on. Now, from our perspective, what? We just dropped a nuclear bomb on a city, and you're going to fight on?
Yeah, right. Are you crazy?
More of
You're gonna
this
make us do this again?
hundreds of thousands and more of your people are going to die because you want to fight on. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, and then the part that's amazing, the part where we all have to stop and go, whoa, wait a second, is that the hardliners were winning.
Yeah.
The decision was to fight on until Nagasaki happened. Okay? And then they had to rethink the whole thing.
And even then, my understanding is even then some of the hardline wanted to continue to fight. They were just at this point outnumbered too much to resist it.
That's correct.
Yep.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Well, the whole island would have gone. We would have destroyed the entire island. I mean, I have no doubt that we would have put up a third one if they kept fighting.
Oh yeah, it would have taken a little more time, but yeah. So if you wanted to write an alternate history of Japan, there you go.
There's one difference here though. Our moral compass, I guess, wasn't quite there like it is today. We had no problem with wiping out an entire civilian population, like we did.
No, I wouldn't say we had no problem with it. There were
of course we had moral problem with it, but we did it. Now today, I don't think we would do that. I don't think we would nuke a city. Iran.
I don't remember who it was, but some notable figure had said to Truman, "Why not do a demonstration explosion offshore?"
Yeah, that makes sense.
To see the power of the weapon.
Yeah.
And Truman had decided that would not really impress them, and he was half right.
Yeah.
Half right. Mm-hmm. So what do you do with it? So here we are now. We've decimated Iran's military assets.
I think he was completely right because they destroyed Hiroshima, an entire city, and that wasn't enough to impress them still. Shot in the ocean, they wouldn't even have blinked at that.
Yeah, they wouldn't have. And then they still would have been forced to bomb a city anyway because of the, I'm
not even sure how many, we had just barely invented the nuclear bomb. How many did we even have on stock at that time? Probably not too many.
I believe at that point in time, we would have only been able to have done 2. And then we would have needed time to prepare. Yeah.
All
right. So now, so given this parallel, it stands to reason that I think the most likely outcome now is that it's going to be round 2, however soon, and the Iranians are going to be forced into a corner. And by the way, the important thing to keep in mind here is that now the street level activity is beginning to show up, although I have to add another one. Prince Pahlavi did go on TV and he reminded the people there, don't come out until the war itself is over, which to me is sound advice.
I think so too.
Okay, well, nonetheless, you have, again, I'm referencing good old Tausi TV, TUUSA.tv, great source. They're absolutely on top of everything. And so you had these checkpoints where I think it's Kurds who are killing the people at these checkpoints. All right, so that's kind of like that's a first step.
Some of those weapons we're giving the Kurds, it turns out they're using them for what we want after all, at least somewhat.
It would appear.
That's good.
All right, so you have this kind of, call it drive-by shooting that's going on, but that's nothing like a street level rebellion. That's on a whole other scale.
That's correct.
Right. And
I should point out that I haven't pointed out. We know about last fall, how they came out into the streets, but there have been other attempts at overthrow of the Iranian government by the people over the past as well.
Yeah, and
Most of them have been
it was our fault. We screwed up.
Mhm.
The big one was under George W. Bush, not George W. but Bush one,
George H.W. Right.
George H.W. Bush, and you had people who were out in the streets rebelling. They were ready to overthrow the Ayatollah and his council of experts. And at the last minute, Bush got cold feet.
Mm-hmm.
No, wouldn't do it.
That's because he's corrupt.
Well, corruption might be a
Bush
part.
is a rhino. Let's face it. I didn't think so, but I was wrong.
Let's see, rhino.
There's a lot of things. We could have a whole show about someday when we have a slow news time when this war is over. We could have a show about 9/11. Talk about 9/11.
I don't think the news is going to slow down after Iran is done.
Never going to slow down. It's never going to. But we could do a half an hour, half a show on 9/11 sometime. Maybe we'll do it in September when we the anniversary, the 25th anniversary.
Unfortunately, you're not going to like my take on how I want to do 9/11.
I'm not gonna like it.
You do know about the barium, right?
The barium?
Yes, the element barium.
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay. Turns out barium is not a metal with a lot of different industrial uses.
Mm-hmm.
Barium is not used in construction. It doesn't make metal alloys stronger.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And so it comes up short in a lot of areas, except for one.
Bombs.
Thank you. It turns out that when you lace ordinary explosives with barium, it makes the explosion much stronger.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So why was there all that barium in the residues after the towers came down? What was all that barium doing there? Because there was nothing that would use the barium other than explosives.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I've also heard that the forensic evidence, the chemical forensic evidence on the site showed the kind of steel that was built to build the World Trade Center was melted. It was melted.
Mm-hmm.
And no fire caused by jet fuel alone can burn hot enough to melt that kind of steel. So something else, maybe barium or something else, was used. A lot of engineers would also tell you that the striking of the jets at the buildings where they happened should not have resulted in the entire collapse of the building the way it did.
Right.
Those buildings were designed not to collapse in that situation.
Right. There's a whole community of architects and engineers out there who have worked together to analyze everything that happened, including at the Pentagon.
Mm-hmm.
And they've raised a lot of questions about the validity of the claims based upon what will constitute the photographic evidence.
Correct. And another thing is the 9/11 commission that was commissioned to investigate their report. Remember, it came out a few years later. Right. That report never talked about the financing. They never investigated the financing of the 9/11. Like that wasn't important. Like who paid for this stuff. None of that stuff was even mentioned in the report.
However, I am told, although I have not read it myself, is that there is an appendix that raises the types of questions we're asking. It doesn't answer them, but at least acknowledges that there are these other takes.
There's unanswered questions, a lot of them.
Right.
So yeah, so we could talk about that. Maybe this September we'll do a little show about it because I know a lot about it too. And I didn't. It's not what the story we got on the news of it is definitely not the entire story. So
yeah, everything everything we're talking about here absolutely violates the established narrative.
That's correct.
So I think we'll be getting quite a few other trolls who want to weigh in on this stuff.
9/11 is a hot topic, like even now.
Yeah.
Because the two things that happened that we talk about back in the 80s, they used to talk about the roaring 50s and how much better it was than the 80s. Now I can tell you the 80s.
The 50s were better than the 80s?
Yeah, innocent or whatever it was. But what? I thought the 80s were great. But the bottom line is the United States, the party in the USA by Miley Cyrus type of thing, took the biggest hit on 9/11. And then the second was the election of Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Since then, we've been declining, and we have to stop that. Trump's ascension has sort of stopped that, and we're starting to come back. But we have to save this country and the free and our culture, not just our borders, but our culture.
Mm-hmm. Now think of what Michael Savage said. It's a everything is borders, language, and culture, and he was absolutely right about that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a theme that he picked on up from Pat Buchanan. So it's I should say this. I mean, when you're trying to organize your thoughts around what confronts us and what the liberals, progressives, and communists are trying to do to this country, Michael Savage is sort of boiling it down to language, borders, and culture. Really crystallizes your thinking, right?
True.
So the border part right now is much improved, but I would not say that we have that under control. Language is still very much a problem, but as we know, culture is an even bigger problem.
Yeah, culture is the biggest one of the three right now, I think.
So it breaks out into all these other things.
The border was the biggest problem until Trump came along, but we haven't completely. We've secured the border very nicely, but there are other avenues that are being used to infiltrate the country. But yeah, I've heard a lot of. There are more than one ancient philosopher has said you can't keep a country together if you're not speaking the same language.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's another argument is there has to be a shared culture.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so when we talk about the melting pot and immigrants assimilating into the American culture, that's kind of what we're talking about. But then along come these other creeps telling people to not assimilate. And so instead of talking about the melting pot, they talked about the salad bowl. And
salad bowl. We're not going to accept that.
It's not working. So
salad bowls don't work.
Yeah, well, I think one of the hard parts here that we're going to have to get to is making a moral judgment. That's exactly what it is, making a moral judgment that some cultures are more, I'm going to say it's superior than others. There's been this tendency, which is like the flat earth thinking that seems to be everywhere, that you can't say that one culture is superior to another. And
that's cool.
And our educational system has kind of followed that. So in the textbooks, when they talk about things like ancient civilizations and empires, they'll find some obscure group of people in Africa who had a trading post for 500 years and call that a civilization. No, sorry, not working. You're going to have to use more discernment. You're going to have to use much better criteria in order to be able to say, well, many different kinds of people came through here. It's a bustling metropolis. It was a dominant regional force. So yes, it was a significant civilization. But, on the other hand, for example, the Nabateans. Nabateans?
Mm-hmm.
You do?
I don't know. I never heard of them. I don't know. Tell me about it. What's going on?
How about Petra?
Nope.
Okay. You did watch that movie, didn't you, with Sean Connery and Harrison Ford, In Search of the Holy Grail, Indiana Jones?
Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail?
Okay.
Okay, so I am a fan of I've saw Raiders of the Lost Ark like 7 times. I saw the other movies, Temple of Doom, twice, I think, and I saw the one you're talking about only 1 time.
Well, the
Temple long time ago, so I don't remember it.
Temple of Doom sucked. Okay.
Temple of Doom did suck, but there were some funny parts in there. It's like a comedy, too comedic.
Yeah.
But
well, yeah, no, you should.
That's why I only saw it twice.
What's not to love? It was Sean Connery in it, playing his father. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I saw that 1 time.
Okay, we gotta watch it more than that. Remember at the end, there's that big, beautiful castle carved into the rock face.
Yes, I do. We remember that.
Okay, that was Petra, located in the deserts of Jordan. And it
Okay.
turned out
So
that
you're saying that was a real, that's a real place then?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely, okay. And it was part of a culture called the Nabateans that dates back at least several thousand years. So they would have been sort of contemporaneous with the Egyptians.
Okay.
Um, but the thing is, if you were to look at a map, the Nabateans were in that piece of Jordan, Saudi Arabia, kind of working up where we think of Israel.
Yeah.
They were like toll takers. You know, travelers who were doing trade always needed a place to stop.
Okay.
And so the Nabateans
Highwaymen.
made money on the trade traffic that was moving through there, and they were I think they were a dominant force for the time. But
They just collect tolls? Did they just collect tolls, or they put up like lodging and stuff like that? Food, lodging.
They did both.
Okay.
But so the problem is that they too came and went. Now, what would have caused them to disappear? This is something we're still trying to figure out. Again, the only thing that's really left are these incredible carved structures that they made.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the early phase of the Nabateans, which are not quite as advanced, and you can find those too. And you've got these archaeologists out there who live and breathe trying to figure out these things. So this is, you've got guys who are devoted to this mystery who were the Nabateans. And they're out there crawling through rocks and caves and God knows what else, trying to put together a picture of all of this. And, God bless him, a guy named Josh Gates does his show, Expedition Unknown. One of his episodes was to meet up with the archaeologist who was doing this work. And there was a scene where they actually had to rappel down a rock face because halfway down the rock face was this carving right in the rock. Well, what the hell is it doing there? Okay, but it was part of the Nabatean culture. Strange.
Well, to suggest that no cultures can be superior to another is absolute foolhardy. Because now you would suggest then that the culture in Iran before this war started was somehow better than or just as good as our own.
Well, there's another part.
That's not true.
But there's another part to this, though. Even great cultures perish, right?
Okay.
So the Roman Empire was considered one of the greatest empires in human history. And look at what happened to them.
You know what? The same thing happened to them that was in danger to happen to us. They had open borders and they let the Visigoths and the Goths and all these wacky left-wing freaks at the time go into Italy and mess everything up. Well, that's what happened.
I feel a Monty Python skit coming on here.
Maybe we should get Mel Brooks to wake him up off the grave and get him out here again.
I guess.
You ever see History of the World Part 1? What a cool comedy that was.
It doesn't exist. This is too funny. The wacky Huns. That'd be funny. Well, we'll start off with
a bunch of woke far-wing junkies from Germany came down, messed everything up in Rome.
Lunker Hun. No. Nobody is taking. There's no comedic take on the Huns here. Those wacky Huns. Okay.
And the Goths and the Visigoths, all those guys.
Yeah.
So we got the same problem. Well, they came over the border into Italy. They came off through the Alps, and little by little, they came into Italy. They did not assimilate into the Roman culture.
Well, no, there are different parts here. I mean, I think what we find is there was a combination of factors that weakened the Roman Empire. One was that they started to allow, quote, foreigners to be a part of the Roman legion. So
just like we do.
Well, not so much. I mean, I think the way we do it is still a little bit more limited. You think of the Germans, for example. I mean, all right, no, the British, okay? So when they, in the American Revolutionary War, they had the Hessians as mercenaries working with the British, right?
Mm-hmm.
That said, okay, but on the American side, you had all kinds of people. I think there were pirates who were part of the revolution.
Yeah, everybody.
Okay, so yes, there was, quote, room for people who were not necessarily invested in the concept of liberty per se, but the message resonated with them and they wanted to be a part of it. So,
You can't
okay.
ignore the economic factor as well.
Yeah.
Julius Caesar said himself that the way you ruin a good republic is eventually the people figure out they can vote themselves money out of the treasury.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's happening here in America. People are the kind of spending going on in our government for social programs are way over the top, and it's done for out of greed. Most of it's done only under the guise of compassion, but really under greed and fraud, as we're now learning more and more here in America.
Mm-hmm. True.
So that's where republics get destroyed. They go bankrupt.
Well, it would be interesting to see if other nations underwent bankruptcy similar to this, where there was all kinds of fraud. Well, I guess they're right. I mean, it kind of goes back to your point that they were taking money out for themselves, but it was being taken for fraudulent purposes.
Or greed, just greed, fraud, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And yeah, so it has to stop.
It has to stop. It has to be controlled. Otherwise, that's,
well,
we complain about the uncontrollable spending in Congress. Well, that's it,
Well, how long has that message been getting kicked around?
It's hard to stop it because it's human nature. People are greedy. They're in it for themselves. The massive fraud. We hear story after story. Even the Red Cross, my goodness, is corrupt.
What did they do?
There are rumors out there that the Red Cross upper brass has been infiltrated by Islamic type of influence.
American Red Cross?
The Red Cross, the International Red Cross, yeah.
Well, let's be clear now. I'm going to try this.
I believe there's an American Red Cross chapter, but the Red Cross is an international.
But no, American Red Cross is American. See what happens here as we do a search on.
Yeah, but we operate internationally. I mean, the Red Cross operates in places like the Middle East, Africa, Europe, more so than they do here. They have been founded here. I think we're pretty much run by. It's like the ACLU was once a an organization really out there to protect individual rights. Now, the ACLU we know is corrupt and infiltrated by Marxists. So.
Yeah.
The ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, is there to ruin your rights, not protect them. Now, you seeing some stuff about International Red Cross corruption going on over there?
Sorry, say again?
A little bit about what's going on with the Red Cross?
Well, so the American Red Cross, there is some questionable activity here based upon the news. But yeah, in a groundbreaking new report, Reality Check has uncovered specific evidence that the International Committee of the Red Cross habitually violates its duty of neutrality.
Correct. And they also embezzle money out of the Red Cross and put it in who knows whose hands. So.
Right. And then there's another allegation that the International Red Cross is sleeping with terrorists.
There you have it.
And that they're morally bankrupt, et cetera, et cetera.
That's correct.
Okay. So it would seem like, yeah. Well, this gets into then what about all the other international organizations?
Well, I have a question. Are there any large organizations in the world that are benevolent, that do what they're supposed to do left? Can't think of it. Can't think of too many.
Well, depends on what you call it. I would point to Samaritan's Purse as a group that's doing good work. It's hard because a lot of these groups, they are liberal and progressive to begin with.
That's right.
So the ability to, sort of tease that out from doing work that's intrinsically beneficial to people in need might be a little difficult.
Okay, with that, we're going to wrap it up tonight pretty soon. We'll do an abbreviated version.
I just want to.
Anything else you want to throw out there before we wrap it up?
Here, let me see what's
my dinner's almost ready.
Oh, okay.
Late dinner.
Looking for
while you're thinking it out, I just want to mention Common Sense Entertainment did get officially letter from the IRS and everything. So now I can open a bank account, start buying equipment, hiring, and forming a company. So here we go. The letter came today. I won't show it online, but here it is.
That's okay. All right.
I can show you the envelope. There's nothing right down there. So the envelope. I'm so excited.
Okay, but the issue of how do I address this? I should send you, if I can find it, darn it. Brendan Mulrennan is a very successful podcaster for people who want to be successful in real estate.
Okay.
And he makes about $5 million a year.
Wow, I'll take half that. I'll take a tenth of that.
Right. So then you look at his studio that he broadcasts from, and you try to figure out, well, what kind of camera is he using? What kind of lighting is he using? And it turns out that a lot of it is very ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me just take a quick look here. Try to.
Research live here on Facebook.
That's right. It might give us an answer. All right. Yeah. No, there's a. Let's see here. There's some. There's one here. I could send it to you, although it doesn't get specific.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items here. But the question is the specific kind of microphone, the specific kind of audio interface, the specific kind of digital audio workstation.
We're gonna figure all that out, but not here right now.
Yeah, not here. But if it's about Pro Tools, by the way, which is your digital audio workstation, the person you need to talk to?
Eric.
No.
No, who?
Douglas.
Okay.
Douglas knows Pro Tools.
Okay.
Which is used by musicians.
Uh-huh. I love music.
I had to throw in a dramatic pause.
I'm gonna buy an electric ukulele.
An electric ukulele.
Yeah, they exist.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Everything does these days.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just whipping this up here for you.
Send it to me. I'll look at it. Appreciate it.
And so it's called Studio.
That's it for tonight on Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us on Common Sense News and Entertainment. Once again, God bless Connecticut. God bless America.
All right. Nighty night.
Goodbye, everybody. Enjoy the show. I'm glad you enjoyed it. A little bit shorter tonight because it's late, but tomorrow we'll be back. We're going to record Monday afternoon again, so we'll be back then.
Right. Yep. Okay.
All right, then.